Okay, welcome to my YouTube channel. And today we're going to look at F geometry. Okay, F geometry is just a topic deals with coordinates and distance along longitudes and latitudes. So the key things in this video, I'm going to teach you the key things you need to answer such questions under mathematics or during the exam. So the things you need to know to understand this topic is that you need to know what these lines are called. Lines which are going from the north to the south pole, and lines which are moving from the west to north. You need to know these lines, what they are called and what their names are. So for starters, the lines which start from the north going to the south, we call these lines what? Longitudes. Hope we are clear, or great circles. So now lines which are going from west to east, we call them what? Latitudes. Hope that is clear. Lines that are going from north to south, we call them what? Longitudes. Then lines starting from west going to east, we call them what? Latitudes. Okay, so now what do you do? How do you correct points? For example, if you want to name the points for point A on this diagram, what do you need to do? You need to start by what? Get the latitude where A is. In this case, A is on latitude what? 50 degrees north. Then the longitude is what? A is on longitude 75 degrees west. So the formula you need to know on how to find the points, the coordinates of any point on this diagram, on such diagram, or on the earth. You need to, it's like this. Just move it here. You need to say, okay, the points are given what? Latitude, comma, longitude. That's how you are able to get a point. So this is the formula you use if you want to find the points. We want to identify the points. We want to write the points of if you want to write the coordinates of a given point. So for example, if you want to write the coordinates of point A, how do you start? Let's look at the formula. It says that latitude, comma what? Longitude. So we need to start with what? The latitude. In this case, our A, it will be what? If we would follow this formula, if you look at this point A here, if we are following this formula, A will be what? It will be 50 degrees north. Then longitude, it is on longitude what? 75 degrees west. So that's how you identify the coordinates of the given point. So this formula is very important. You need to pay attention. You need to master it in order for you to answer any question which deals with F geometry. Okay, so now you have understand how to identify the coordinates on the point. What do you do? Let's read the question. Okay, so one thing you need to know is that you can be asked to do what? To find distance of between 2 points on the earth, on the surface of the earth. Find the distance between children. So you can be asked to find distance on the earth surface between 2 points on the earth surfaces. Now there are two ways to find distance on the surface of the earth. There are two ways, or there are two formulas you need to know. The first formula you need to know is when you have been given the same longitude. I'll explain, but the formula goes like this. You have distance is equal to pi. I'm sorry, I don't have an emoji for pi, but you can consider this type of emoji as as pi. This, when I say pi, I simply mean this type of emoji. I don't have it on my phone, but you can use this symbol as for pi. So when you have the same longitudes, and I've told you what longitudes are, so there's no need to get confused. So when you have the same longitude, When I say same, for example, you have point A and point D. Using that formula I showed you, that you need to have, first of all, you need to have what? The latitude of point A and the longitude of what? Point A. That's how you make coordinates of a given point on the surface of the Earth. Same applies to D. These are the coordinates for D. How did I find these coordinates? I simply followed that formula I showed you earlier on in that video. So what they are saying, if you have the same longitudes, how do I identify? For example, I will tell you, I will ask you find the distance between A and D. So you need to check. You need, first of all, what you need to do is what? Write down the points of the coordinates of those two points. You need to write down the coordinates of those two points. After I've written down the coordinates of those 2 points, what do you do? What do you do next? You simply look at the coordinates. Okay, what do I have which is the same among these coordinates point A and point D? You said, oh, okay, I have same longitudes. Why am I calling this longitudes? Because of a formula I told you earlier on in that video on how to find the coordinates of the point on the surface of the Earth. So after you have identified that, okay, I have what? I have the same longitudes. Which formula do I use? You're going to use this formula here, which says that distance is equals to pi divided by 360 multiplied by 2 times pi times r. Now you need to ask yourself, what is r in this formula? R is just the radius. You will always be given the radius in the question. Yeah. Okay. As I was saying, you will always be given what? The radius r in the question. I'll show you when answering an example, a past paper question example. So the other thing, when you have been given the same latitudes, the formula you're going to use is this one here, which says d is distance is equals to pi divided by 360 times 2 times pi times r cos latitude. Okay, let me give you, for example, let's try looking at the example. So these are the only formulas which are important under Earth geometry. You need to know this. When you have the same longitude, which formula do you use? You use this one. When you have the same latitude, which formula do you use? You use this one. Then there's another one whereby they ask you the length, not the distance, but what? The length. Up here is clear. When you have the same longitude, you use this formula. When you have the same latitude, what do you use? You use this formula. And how do you identify if you have the same latitude or you have the same latitude or the same longitude? You simply get the 2 points they have asked you to find the distance. For example, in this case, you have point A and point D. After finding, you need to find the coordinates of each point. For example, point A, you have found the coordinates are these, and for point D, the coordinates are these. And what is same here? What is the same? We will notice that the same. What is the same is what? The longitudes. Hence, if a formula says you should use this for what? Distance under the same longitude, you're going to use this formula. I'll assure you, if you understand what I'm explaining here, because this is the main job here, this is where main marks are located. You need to understand this. Once you understand this, then almost F geometry are home and dry. The rest are just tricky, simple, and that's straightforward. Okay, when the other thing they will ask you to find is what? Length. So when they ask you to find length, sorry about that. When they ask you to find length, what do? You simply use the same formula for latitudes when you have the same latitude. But this time around, you're going to remove this part. This theta divided by 360. You're going to remove it. I'm going to remain with what? 2 pi r cos latitude. That's the formula you're going to use when you're finding what? Length. I repeat myself, you want to ask you to find the length. Just identify the key terms in the question. Key terms. I ask you to find length. You're going to use this formula, but instead of this part. But when you actually find distance, you're going to use the whole formula. If you have the same you have the same latitudes. But if you have the same longitude, you use this formula here. So okay, hope there is clear. Let's look at the question now. We try to apply the same principles I'm talking about. So okay, This question came in 2016, paper 2. The question reads, the points A, B, C, and D are on the surface of the Earth. Take pi as 3.142 and R. Have you seen what I've said? R, the radius, they will always give you in the past paper, and in the question, in short, they will always give you what R to use, so you have nothing to worry about when it comes to R to R. So the next thing you need to know, how do you find what? Theta. Theta, you need to find theta. So how do you find theta? Let's look at the question and I'll show you how to find what? Theta. So, okay, the question reads, question A. Question A reads, find the difference in latitude between point C and B. Find the difference in latitude between point C and B. So what do you do here? You look at point C and B. Okay, here it is, right? And I've told us what the difference of latitudes, and we know that latitudes are lines moving from west to east. So we have to find the difference between this one and this one. So first of all, you look at the directions. For example, point C, the latitude for point C is what is on the northern part, on the north pole of the Earth. But for point B, the latitude is on what? It's on the northern path, the north pole part of the Earth. Have you seen the different directions? I'm talking about in latitudes. Look at the latitudes first of all, then look at the direction. If the directions are different, you're supposed to add the degree. The degrees are these. You're supposed to add them. That's how you find the difference between points, between the difference in the latitudes between two points. In this case, it's point C and B. So since you have identified the directions of the 2 points, you need to ask yourself, are these points in the same direction or different direction? Now, since they are in the different directions, what do? You add them. But if they are in the same direction, for example, you have north and north here, you need to subtract. Hope it's clear. I repeat, when you have different directions, what do? You add the 2 degrees. In this case here, you need to add 50 plus 70. Why are we adding? Because we have different directions. Directions are given off by these letters, whether it's in the North Pole or the South Pole, using the compass. So they are in different directions. What do? You add the degrees. This one, 50 plus 70. Okay, let me show you what I'm talking about, which is here. Like I said, when you have different directions, you simply add the degrees here. You have 50 plus 70. Your answer will be 120 degrees. Hence, this is the difference in latitudes. This question always comes in the exam, mathematics paper 2. So already you have 1 mark. Before the video ends, you have started getting marks already. So far you have 1 mark. So okay, let's go to question number 2. Question number 2 reads, calculate the length of the circle of latitude 50 north, 50 degrees north in nautical miles. Okay, remember what I told you earlier on in this video, saying that when you are asked to find, they will ask you to find distance and length. In this case, for question number B, you are asked to find the length, and we're finding the length. What do you use? You use the formula for distance of latitudes. Now you need to remove that part where you said theta divided by 360. You need to remove that part. When you remove that part, what do you remain with? You're going to remain with this, which is here. Hope you understand. You're going to remain with this, which is here, and that is the formula you're going to use for finding length. So each time they ask you to find length, just use the formula for latitudes and remove the theta divided by 360. What you're going to remain with, that's the formula you're going to use to find length. Mathematics is simple and straightforward. So okay, now since we know the formula for length is equals to this, our pi, where we have gotten this pi is from the question, and we have gotten this r, which is 334 times, which is 337. Yo.
What?
Okay. So as I was saying, sorry for disturbance. As I was saying, these two, the R and the R most is they'll always give you what the R in the question, like I showed you earlier on. Then this 50, they'll also give you in the question the pi here. They always will give you, which is here, the 50. That's where this 50 has come from the question there. Then these two, this one 34, 37, you have been given in the question I showed you there in the question, and the same applies to the pi. You will always be given what the pi. Then after you have punched in, you have substituted rather, you simply simplify these calculations which are here. So after simplifying, you get your answers 139 100 nautical miles. That's how you find what length under what earth geometry. So now let's look at question D. Question D is asking us to find what the distance between the 2 points A and D in nautical miles. Okay, so like I said, when you're finding distance, there are only two formulas, which is what the first one is what when the longitudes are the same. Then the second one is when the latitudes are the same. So the first thing you need to do, you need to get the coordinates of A and D. Okay, so here are the coordinates of for A and D. So after getting the coordinates of A and D, what do? You check among the inside the brackets here. You check. You ask yourself, okay, where among these two coordinates here which I have, which directions is the same? You check, okay, west and west are the same. And using that formula I've told you earlier on in this video, which is when you want to find the coordinates or the points, just simply say latitude, longitude. In this case, what is the same is what? The longitudes. So hence you're going to use that formula for what? For longitude, which says that distance is equal to pi divided by 360 times 2 pi times r. In this case, this is why we have used this formula here. So now, how do you get the theta on top here? How do you get it? So you simply look at the latitudes. When we say that latitudes, when you have different directions, what do? You add the degrees. In this case, when you add the 70 plus 50 to give us what? 120. So this is where the 120 has come from. The 2 is already there. Then the pi here, sorry, it was a mistake. It's supposed to be 3 here, not 2. But the pi is what? It's supposed to be 2 here. It's supposed to be what? 3 rather. It's supposed to be 3.12. All these numbers here, they'll give you what in the question. So after doing that, you simply simplify to find your answer. After you have simplified, you'll find your answer. The main emphasis is on what? This concept here. Once you understand this concept here, I guarantee you will answer any question under mathematics F geometry. Now the last concept you need to learn under F geometry is that when you have such a question, this one which came in 2021 GCE, what do you do when you have no directions? Or just been given degrees? Simple. What do? Use the formula for what? When the longitudes are the same. I repeat, when you have no coordinates, the formula you use when the longitudes are the same. So the first question reads here: determine the difference in longitudes between point A and B. Difference. How do you determine the difference? The difference is simply 85 degrees. How did you get this 85 degrees? This is how we have gotten the 85 degrees. This is the difference from A to B. Why? Because he point this angle which is formed here by which angle which is formed here 85 degrees. It started from where? From here and here, which is the same thing as B and A. That's why I've gotten what? 85 degrees. I hope you are clear on this question. So we move on to the next question. The next question is 2K. We have this. I've been told to do what? Calculate the distance between the points CD. So at this point and this point, like I said, you just simply use the formula for what? When the longitudes are the same. Okay. So when finding the distance between C and D, this formula is what? When the longitudes are what? Are the same. Earlier on in this video, I explained on how to determine the formula for finding distance under what? Earth geometry. So here, just some substitute. While there's theta there, you put what? 85. The difference between those two points. That angle there. Then after substituting and doing all the calculations, you get your answer to be 5,100 nautical miles. Same applies here. Now, why didn't we use the 85 degrees also here, 85 degrees? If you look at the diagram, let me just show you the diagram. Here it is. The distance between what? B and what? And D. Why we have taken this angle? Why? Because this is a difference in longitudes. So I've gotten this angle and then use it in the formula for what? When the longitudes are the same, Okay, so we go on to the solution. So here's the solution here. So after punching in, substitute there, then you do the same thing. Hope it's clear. Thank you for watching my YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and like and leave a comment.